The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, is set to announce immediate cuts worth billions of pounds aimed at plugging a £20 billion black hole in the finances when she addresses MPs later today. Ms Reeves is said to be genuinely shocked by some of the findings, which she blames the previous Tory government for, but she will not suggest at this stage that tax rises will be required. Let's speak to Thomas Pope, Deputy Chief Economist at the Institute for Government. Welcome to you. Thanks very much for being with us. Just explain this financial shortfall then.
It sounds like today what Rachel Reeves is going to outline is that spending so far this year is running ahead of what the government have budgeted for. So the budgets for this year, 2024-25, were set at the spending review back in 2021. They imply relatively tight plans. We knew that, but it sounds like what she's going to say today is actually given additional pressures that she's uncovered, in particular, higher than expected public sector pay rises that are going to be recommended by pay review bodies, that it's now going to be very difficult to achieve that. What she's not going to be talking about, it sounds like, is ongoing pressures that are expected to emerge over the next few years, which was something that we and other commentators talked a lot about in the election. And we suggested that the spending plans that she outlined already looked undeliverable then.
Yeah, well, there's so much transparency over public accounts now. Is this really genuinely going to be seen as a surprise, a £20 billion black hole? Did they really not know about it?
I think there is a difference between tax and welfare spending, where the OBR does a really detailed bottom-up analysis of how much do we expect taxes to come in each year, how much do we expect welfare to be spent. On public spending on departments, they take a slightly different approach, and they effectively take what the government says as given. The government gives them the total amount that they're going to spend. So it's true that we don't actually have as much analysis, bottom-up analysis of the public finances on the spending side as we do on the tax side. So we will learn some genuinely new things today, and I'm sure that there were some things coming into government that were really surprising for Rachel Reeves. But I think if we take a step back, while there will be some surprises that she'll announce today, ultimately the unaffordability of spending plans over the next few years, if not in this year in particular, was pretty apparent from the outside. Even before the election, we and others were making that point. And I don't think it's credible for Rachel Reeves to say that, it's surprising that anything is affordable, albeit I think it is credible that things might look even worse than she'd imagined before the election.
Jeremy Hunt, the former Chancellor, says this is just an attempt to butter up the electorate and prepare them for tax rises. Do you see that happening? Is that what we can expect?
I think we and others before the election were highlighting that existing spending plans did look extremely tight, and if you wanted to deliver better performing public services, that more spending would be necessary, and likely that would require tax rises. So I think, will we likely see at some point over the next year or two more tax rises than Rachel Reeves promised in that manifesto? I think that's very likely. I think if the Conservatives had won the election, they were basing their spending plans on those same assumptions, and indeed we're going even further on tax cuts. So I think it's even more likely that they would have had to increase taxes more than required. I mean, what's notable today is that Rachel Reeves is apparently going to suggest that initially she's going to afford some of these or make some of this saving through reducing spending on infrastructure. And I think that's a bit concerning, because the UK already stands out as a low investor internationally, and there's a real risk that cuts to capital spending can provide a bit of a false economy. They can provide relatively pain-free savings in the short term, but actually we know that if spent well, more public investment will improve economic performance, will improve the productivity of public services, and if anything, we need more capital spending in order to be able to afford the public finance settlement going forwards rather than less.
OK, Thomas Pope, really interesting to get your thoughts. We will see when she makes that speech later on today. Thank you very much.